The snow began falling just after sunset. At first, it was gentle, almost polite, as if asking permission to touch the ground. Tiny white flakes drifted through the cold air, settling quietly on rooftops, empty streets, and the bare branches of trees. By nightfall, the town of Hollow Creek was wrapped in white silence. People closed their doors early that night. Windows glowed softly from inside warm houses. Fires crackled. Curtains were drawn. The world outside slowly disappeared beneath layers of snow. But not everyone was inside. At the edge of town, beneath a broken street lamp, a man stood alone. No one knew his name. He wore a dark coat dusted with snow, his hands buried deep in his pockets. His breath formed clouds in the air as he looked up at the sky, watching the snow fall like memories he couldn't stop. This night was different. He could feel it. Years ago, snow had meant joy to him. It meant laughter, warmth, family. It meant standing by a window with someone he loved, watching the world turn white. Now, snow meant silence. It meant reminders. The man walked slowly down the empty street. His boots left deep footprints behind him, the only signs of life in a town that seemed to be holding its breath. Hollow Creek was small. The kind of town where everyone knew each other's faces but not their pain. Where smiles were polite and conversations stayed shallow. The man had arrived here months ago, quietly, without announcement. He rented a small room above an old bookstore that no longer sold books. No one asked where he came from. He didn't offer answers. They called him the stranger. That night, the snow fell heavier. Wind howled through the streets, pushing flakes sideways, erasing footprints as quickly as they were made. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang once, then stopped. The stranger stopped walking. Across the street, a small figure stood shivering. A boy. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old. He wore a thin jacket, far too light for the cold, and no gloves. His hands were red, his face pale. The stranger crossed the street without thinking. "What are you doing out here?" he asked gently. The boy looked up, eyes wide but not afraid. "I'm waiting," he said. "For what?" "For my dad." The stranger felt something tighten in his chest. "Where is your home?" The boy pointed vaguely down the street. "He said he'd come back before it got dark." The snow was already past the boy's ankles. The stranger knelt in front of him. "What's your name?" "Evan." "I'm a broken bar, a friend," the stranger said after a pause. "Let's get you warm." Evan hesitated, then nodded. Inside the stranger's small room above the bookstore, the heater rattled weakly, fighting the cold. The stranger wrapped Evan in an old blanket and handed him a mug of warm tea. Evan's hands shook as he held it. "My dad gets lost sometimes," Evan said quietly. "Not like lost, just a broken bar stuck." The stranger said nothing. Outside, the snowstorm grew worse. Hours passed. No one came. The stranger watched the clock. Midnight. Evan's eyes drooped, but he forced them open. "He promised," the boy whispered. The stranger sat beside him. "I know," he said. The truth came later. The knock on the door was soft, uncertain. A woman stood outside, her face streaked with tears, her coat half-buttoned. "My son," she said breathlessly. "Have you seen my son?" The stranger stepped aside. Evan ran to her. She collapsed to her knees, holding him tightly, sobbing into his hair. "I went looking for his father," she cried. "He never came home. I thought Evan was inside. I didn't know a broken bar." The stranger looked away. The snow continued to fall. By morning, the town had changed. Word spread quickly. People spoke of the stranger who had saved a child from the storm, of the room above the bookstore, of the quiet man who didn't ask for thanks. Neighbors brought food. Someone fixed the heater. Someone shoveled the stairs. The stranger accepted none of it easily, because saving Evan had reopened something he had buried deep. Years ago, on a night just like this, his own son had waited. Snow falling, promises made. A father who arrived too late. The accident had taken everything. The stranger had survived, and survival had felt like punishment. That evening, as the snow finally slowed, the stranger stood outside again. Footprints covered the street now. People walked, talked, laughed softly. The town breathed again. Evan ran toward him, waving. "Mom says thank you," he said. "She says you're a hero." The stranger knelt. "I'm not," he said gently. Evan frowned. "Then what are you?" The stranger looked at the snow-covered town. "I'm someone who stayed." That night, the snow stopped completely. The sky cleared. Stars appeared, sharp and bright. For the first time in years, the stranger slept without dreams. Snow melts, storms pass, but some nights change everything. In Hollow Creek, they would remember this one. They would remember the night of the snow, the night a stranger chose not to walk away, and a town remembered what it meant to care. And the stranger, he stayed, not because he was forgiven, but because he was finally ready to live again.